Today we're going to talk about Purim. First, let's understand what Purim isn't, then we can talk about what Purim. Let's talk about what Purim is, and then we'll talk about what Purim isn't. Yeah. So you want to know what Purim is? You read the story of the Megillah. First of all, you have to recognize the Megillah. The whole plot could easily have been missed by people there. The Megillah took place over 9 years. If you read carefully, it was over a period of 9 years. And you can be sure that lots of other things happened during those 9 years. It was Mordechai and Esther with their Ruach HaKodesh who understood what was part of the plot and what wasn't. When you read it, the story seems quite clear. But they had to sift through everything that happened during those 9 years to put together this plot. Also, we find in the Gemara and the Medrash, they read a lot more into the Megillah than is there literally. And there's a need for a little bit of background from other places in Tanakh about the history of that era, what came before it and what came after it. So we begin. The Megillah takes place towards the end of that first exile, the destruction of the first temple, where we were told it was going to be a 70-year exile, after which the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. Prophet Yirmiyahu had said that, and it was a well-known fact. At the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, certainly in its heyday, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, reigned over the whole world. Israel was the superpower. Gradually, things deteriorated after his death, where the nation divided. But the world understood that if the Jews ever get their act together again, they're going to rule over everybody. Towards the end of these 70 years, so first of all, there was a very big problem of knowing exactly when the 70 years began. The destruction of the first temple, the exile, began in different stages. Took place over a period of a couple of years. The next to the last king, the first temple era, Yehoiachin was exiled, but there was still a Jewish monarchy. Tzidkiyahu was the last king. First they went and they exiled the elite, the leadership. It was only at the very end that they actually destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And even then they left a small Jewish presence with self-rule. So it was very unclear. It was precisely when it was that these 70 years should be counted from. The Babylonian kings We're counting. Belshazzar. He's the famous one with the writing on the wall. He came to the conclusion that the 70 years were up, the Beis HaMikdash was not rebuilt. He started using the captured vessels from the Beis HaMikdash. Saw the writing on the wall as it was that said that his days were numbered and he was killed. What happened was that the Persians took over from the Babylonian Empire. The Persians took over the world. Under Persian rule, the Jews were given permission to go back to Yerushalayim and rebuild the temple. We read, though, that there were the Kosvei Sitno, anti-Semites who wrote terrible things to the government, that the Jews are trying to reestablish their monarchy, take over the world again, they're going to destroy Persia. So the rebuilding of the temple was halted. Achashverosh, the Persian king, at a certain point believed that his calculations were correct, and now it's for real. The Beis HaMikdash is not going to be destroyed. His monarchy will reign forever. And that's the feast that the Megillah begins with. 180 days. And yes, he too took the different vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, as we read, V'chelim mikelim shonim. He used them, drank from them, to celebrate that that's it. There will not be a Jewish monarchy. He can go on ruling the world. He's dead drunk. He executes Vashti, looks for a queen, and lo and behold, he marries Esther. It was a well-kept secret. It was just unbelievable. Not a single Jew told anybody. Esther, according to the Megillah, was a niece of Mordechai, who was the leader of Klal Yisrael. And according to the Gemara and the Medrash, she was his wife. He had married her. So this was the wife of the Manhig, the wife of the leader of the Jews, now became the queen. This was no reason to celebrate. Achashverosh is referred to as a bear, a grizzly bear. Not very human. Next episode, Haman becomes second in command, gets the king to have everyone bow down to him. And according to the Gemara, the Medrash, he gets his kicks seeing Jews bowing down to an idol. He put a little idol around his neck. So it should look as if the Jews are bowing down to an idol. Now, first you should know the halacha is you have to give your life not to bow down to an idol. You do not have to give your life rather than do something that appears as if you're bowing down to an idol. Big difference. They're bowing down to Haman, who happens to have an idol around his neck. You don't have to give your life for that. This is maris ayin. It looks as if. Looking as if is not something you have to give your life for. So Jews bowed, except for Mordechai. And perhaps this was taken as a tragedy. The Gadol Ador, the leader of the Jews, gets stubborn, stands up for Jewish pride, will not bow to Haman, even though the halacha doesn't say it's asur. Haman, of course, is so hurt by this. But we read in the Megillah, it is beneath him to make it as if he has a personal enemy. So he turns this into an ideological difference, comes to the king, pays him off, says there's this one nation that is unnecessary in your kingdom. They don't mix with the rest of us. They have their own laws. They don't eat our food. Get rid of them. And he pays Achashverosh to get rid of the Jews. And there's the decree, Lashmid Larog Labeh, to destroy, to actually kill every single Jew under Persian rule, which is basically all of civilization that was known to them in the Middle East. Yeah.
He pays Achashverosh?
Yes.
And Achashverosh
accepts it.
Did he really need money or
He didn't need the money. He didn't need the money. In fact, Achashverosh returned the money.
So why did Haman offer it?
Because he didn't think Achashverosh would just agree to a bunch of people killed for nothing. He's in 10,000 shekels, whatever that was worth in those days, but it was a lot of money. It's pure silver. It was a fortune of money. Sarah Salafim Kikar Kesef. This was a weight of gold. It was a lot of money. All right, so there's this decree. They're going to kill all the Jews. Well, that's not enough. Haman sees Mordechai and he still won't bow down to him. So Haman builds a gallows, 50 cubits high. And he's going to string Mordechai up on it. It says the Jews were in mourning. They wore sackcloth. Mourning means they pretty much were giving up on life. They were mourning for themselves. Tragedy. That's the first half of the Megillah. The second half of the Megillah everything turns around. The king can't sleep. He asks that they read his archives. And what do they find? That Mordechai actually saved his life. There was a plot to kill Achashverosh, and Mordechai turned them in. So what was done to Mordechai? Nothing. Meanwhile, Haman was coming to the king to ask that he string up Mordechai. And the king tells him, what would you do to somebody that the king really wants to show favor to? Thinking that it's himself, he says, lead him around town in the royal horse with the crown. The horse used to wear a crown. And declare, this is Kochi Yoselish, this is what you do to a person that the king wants honored. So Achashverosh tells Haman, go get Mordechai and go around town with the royal horse and make this declaration. Bit different than what he thought was going to happen. Esther comes into the king, invites him to a party. At the party, she invites him to another party, together with Haman. At the second party, he asks, all right, what do you want? And she says, I want my life. Myself and my people are about to be destroyed. Oh, who's the destroyer? Who's at fault here? Haman. And she reveals the fact that she's Jewish. The king orders that Haman be strung up on the gallows that he built for Mordechai. But they're left with a problem. There's this decree to kill out all of the Jews. The decree was sent out, and it was to take place. It was to be carried out 11 months later. The decree was sent out on Pesach, and it was to take place 11 months later on what today is Purim. Says the king, the rule here in Persia is that a decree that is signed and sealed by the king cannot be repealed. So he says, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. We don't revoke decrees here. Here's my signet. You come up with whatever solution you could think of and put my seal on it. But the king himself had no answer. What do you do? You can't revoke it, so what do you do? So Mordechai and Esther had an idea. They made another decree that the Jews are to kill out all the anti-Semites and no one is to stop them. There's all the anti-Semites in the kingdom of Persia and Media, and again they ruled over the entire civilized world. Not only that, it took a while till people found out about what decrees came out of Persia. It was to be sent all over the world. So the first decrees were sent out. The second ones, they sent out on these very fast-moving camels. They're described in the Gemara as six-legged dromedaries that would be able to get ahead of the other ones. So that everyone would understand that the decree to kill out all the anti-Semites was the right one. Lo and behold, that's what happened. All the anti-Semites were killed out. Yeah, that's the Megillah, but there's more to the story. Let's first talk about what happened. So the Jews lamented the fact that their leader was going to be killed, the gallows. You know something? The gallows weren't built for Mordechai. They were really built for Haman. That's what happened. But the better one was the decree. Never in a million years would Achashverosh have agreed to a decree to kill out all the anti-Semites. Who would ever agree to such a thing? So how did that come about? Because there was a decree to annihilate the Jews. And since you can't repeal anything, you can't revoke any decree that's signed and sealed, he tells them, make your own decree, do whatever you want. So he gave Mordechai and Esther a free hand to write whatever they wanted to. So it was only because of the decree to kill out the Jews that they were able to get rid of the anti-Semites. So what was the real purpose of the decree? To get rid of all the anti-Semites. The exact opposite. The decree to kill the Jews. Because of that decree, they were able to have a decree to get rid of the anti-Semites. Now, who were these anti-Semites? These are the ones that sent the letters originally to stop the rebuilding of the temple. And indeed, after the story of Purim, the rebuilding of the temple resumes. But there's another catch. It wasn't Achashverosh that resumed the building. It was his son. According to the Medrash, Esther bore this son to Achashverosh. Darius II, according to the Medrash, was Esther's son, which means the whole plot of the Megillah was to plant a Jewish king in the Persian Empire to bring about the rebuilding of the temple and the return to Yerushalayim. So what's the moral of the story? Here the Jews were lamenting. The Jews were scared. They were mourning. And really what was going on? Hashem was really setting up for redemption, the return to Jerusalem. Just everything seemed to be working in the other direction. So what's the moral of the story? Hashem only loves us. All the hardship, all the struggles, they all appear to be working against us. But in truth, everything Hashem does is just the best thing for us. Because He only loves us, nothing else. Everything that seems to be working against us is really working for us. King David writes in Tehillim, Shir HaMalos, Song of Ascents. B'shuv Hashem es Shivas Tzion. Sound familiar? We sing this Shabbos. B'shuv Hashem es Shivas Tzion. When Hashem will return the captivity of Zion. When we come back, when Mashiach comes. Hayinu kecholmin. We will look back and tell ourselves we were in a dream. Oz yimalei schok pinu. Our mouths will be filled with laughter. What does it mean? Oz yimalei schok pinu. There are many different words in the Hebrew language for joy. I heard this from a professor many years ago. There are 27 different words for camel in Arabic. Not a single word for pajamas. In the Hebrew language, there are two words, two concepts that have more synonyms than everything else. One is wisdom and the other one is joy. Chochma, Bina, Das, Dea, Bina, Haska, all kinds of stuff in Chochma, wisdom. And joy, Soson, Simcha, Gila, Rina, Ditza, Chedva, Schok. These are the two most important concepts to us. They're like camels to an Arab. Wisdom and joy. So what is schok? Schok, they're interchangeable. Schok is laughing at the ridiculous. When Mashiach comes, when history will unfold, it is going to be clear to us just why the Jewish people went through their difficult history. The pogroms, the inquisitions, the Holocaust. We'll look back and we'll say to ourselves, we were dreaming, we missed it. We will be killing ourselves with laughter. It's going to be so ridiculous. Everything we ever lamented, we're going to be celebrating. The Navi tells us, when Mashiach comes, Tisha B'Av is going to be a festival. Why a festival? I understand we won't be mourning anymore. We'll have the Beis Hamikdash. But why a festival? We're going to understand what the destruction was all about. We'll be able to celebrate all the tragedies. I mean, today you talk like that, you're out of your mind. Go celebrate the Holocaust. How are you kidding? Some 2,000 years of Jewish suffering. That's what the Golus has been. 2,000 years of anti-Semitism and suffering, torture. genocide. When it all unfolds, it's going to make so much sense. We're going to realize how we didn't understand the thing. Purim is the one day that we are reminded our perception of reality is off. We only see things on a superficial level. And of course, we have to deal with them that way. We mourn on Tisha B'Av. We mourn the Holocaust. We mourn the Crusades. We mourn all of that. We take our own suffering and everybody else's suffering very seriously. One day a year, we're supposed to remember our perception is off. Hashem only loves us. Everything is to our benefit. Difficult as it may seem, it's really the best thing for us. Hasidim tell the story of Rav Yitzchak of Berkovits in one of his travels. So he stayed over at an inn. At midnight at Chatzos, so there's this thing called Tikkun Chatzos, where one gets up in the middle of the night to mourn the destruction of the temple. So the Barditchever gets up in the middle of the night, and there he is wailing away, sobbing over the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. The innkeeper was a simpleton. He never heard of any of these things. He hears the Barditchever crying. He comes into his room and he asks, what happened? So he said, this is what's called Tikkun Chatzos. We're mourning the destruction of the temple. What temple? Rav Yitzchak Berkovits starts describing to him what the temple once was. The Shekhinah was there. There was prophecy. Hashem spoke to us through there. There were open miracles all the time. There was bounty. All the bracha came through the Beis HaMikdash. There was so much prosperity in the Jewish nation because of the Beis HaMikdash. And we sinned and it was all destroyed and we lost it all. And this poor innkeeper starts crying uncontrollably. And the Barditchever thought this man is going to have a heart attack. So he starts calming him down. He tells him, but you have to know there was something very good about the destruction. Because we were so bad that we really deserve to be destroyed. Instead, Hashem destroyed the stones and the wood of the Beis HaMikdash and spared us. And he starts explaining to him all the wonderful moments that every Jew has. All of this was only made possible through the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, because otherwise we wouldn't have been here. There would have been destruction to us. Instead, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. We continue to live and grow, flourish as a Jewish nation. Children, grandchildren. Starts describing how every wonderful thing going on in the Jewish nation is only due to the destruction. Were it not for destruction, it wouldn't be. And this innkeeper gets so happy till the two of them start dancing. And they were dancing and singing till they woke up everyone in the inn. And people come down, what happened? What are you dancing about? And the innkeeper said, you didn't hear? The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. That's what Purim's about. It's being able to understand that everything tragic, everything painful, for the nation and for the individual, is the best thing for us. And one day when we'll understand it, We'll be celebrating and we'll be laughing. They ask, all the tzaddikim that are deceased, they're up in heaven. How couldn't they go and convince Hashem to change things and bring Mashiach already? And the answer is that once you're up there and everything's clear, you're not interested in changing Hashem's plan. You know exactly what he's doing. It's only we down here that don't understand, that say, what's going on here? So that's Purim, it's v'nahafochu, everything's upside down. So that's why the theme on Purim is getting dressed up. It means it looks like one thing, but you're really something else. If you look to the sources, the Ramah in Shulchan Aruch brings down, it was the custom on Purim to serve as the main dish a loaf of bread. And you'd bite into it, and you'd found that they buried the meat inside it. Others had a custom of cooking meat in almond milk. So it looked as if you were cooking meat and milk together. In other words, everything on Purim is to make it look like it's one thing when it's really something else. And the idea is understanding that what we perceive of all year long is off. The truth is totally different. Then we get to drinking. So really, the context of the drinking in the Gemara was to eat and drink and eat and drink. With the Purim feast, was eating as much as you can and more, and the same going for drinking. And the idea is you're celebrating. What are we celebrating? We are celebrating tragedy. We're celebrating pain. We're celebrating everything that during the year we lament, we fear, we suffer. And on Purim, we celebrate it because we know that it's really in our benefit. And then the Gemara makes a statement. You're supposed to drink on Purim till you can't tell the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Oror Haman. And by the way, there's so much written on that. Like, what's the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Oror Haman? So some say what it means is you say Oror Mordechai and Baruch Haman, is what you get all drunk and you're all confused. Others say no. You can't tell the difference between the destruction of the wicked and the blessing given to the tzaddikim. I don't know, when you're sober, you can tell the difference, like why is one better than the other? Not so simple. But anyway, what does it say there? Getting drunk, and it tells us stories about the different Amoraim in the Gemara that got drunk and what they did. One of the Amoraim killed the other one. He was drunk. He didn't just kill him. He slaughtered him, meaning he did an act of shchita. When he sobered the next day, he realized what he did. These were Amoraim. So he resurrected him. A year later, he invited him to his Purim meal again. And this time he refused to go. He said, because maybe this time you'll kill me, and for some reason the miracle won't happen and you won't be able to resurrect me. These were people on a whole different level. We don't quite understand what was going on. The idea of getting drunk is really an expression that all year long we're drunk. That on Purim, when you drink, you're really sober. Because now you're capable of seeing the world in its real light. You're able to rejoice over suffering. Unfortunately, what it's been turned into is a day when, not in the name of really seeing how much Hashem loves you, but sort of an excuse to be able to do what you feel like doing, but they never let you. And that's drinking. Really drinking on Purim, what a real Purim soup is supposed to look like, is one where there's a closeness to Hashem and a real understanding that we can rejoice over pain because we have the confidence that it's for our best. Simply drinking and being detached from reality and making a fool of oneself, that wasn't the purpose. Traditionally, women did not drink. In Judaism, it's just not done. So they'll tell you it's beneath a woman to drink. I want to tell you something. Men by nature, I think this has come up in other discussions. Men by nature love doing anything that allows them to escape reality. Men love studying the theoretical. Studying Gemaras that have nothing to do with life. Thank you. I mean, out in the world, men are busy with sports. I don't mean their own athletics. Following sports teams. Intelligent men. People in higher positions. They're busy following their team. They get all passionate about it. I don't know, women go for that? Any of you into sports? Following teams? You get together and spend hours talking about it? Why not? Why is it only men? Men love discussing anything but life, reality, and themselves. Again, it's the same in learning. The last thing a guy wants to learn is Musar. You'd rather be involved in some deep sugya dealing with something that is totally theoretical today. Mesilas Yesharim writes this very, very clearly. He says, men are studying all kinds of things with the condition that has nothing to do with them. You know, the mashkiach in every yeshiva is busy screaming at everybody. You know, what's with your own character development? What's with your own self-awareness? But often it falls on deaf ears because so much goes against the nature of men. Women are quite the opposite. Women experience life, experience themselves, experience their feelings, want to talk about their feelings. So men jumped on this mitzvah of celebrating Purim by getting drunk because guys love getting drunk. The best way to deal with life is to escape it. That's for a man. That's not a womanly thing to do. Not that men are telling women it's beneath you to drink. Women in Klal Yisrael didn't drink. Women don't want to escape reality. A woman who wants to escape reality is not being a woman. There's something wrong. It must be that reality is too tough and she doesn't have the tools to cope with it. Celebrating Purim in a real way means feeling Hashem's love. It's not about being silly. It's about understanding. Understanding that our experiences are a little too superficial. If we really understood the plot, Hashem is with us all the time, regardless of how much we're suffering. That's the message of Purim, and that's what one has to really feel. Got to take a sip of something to make yourself feel better about it? Wonderful. You don't get drunk. This is not a day where we have a license to escape reality, to blow our brains. Married women dread their husbands getting drunk on Purim. They don't know what they're going to say. They're terribly embarrassed. Kids are frightened to see a father out of control. And certainly drinking till one is sick is disgusting for everyone around. So for the guys, I don't want to be a killjoy. I hope you all have enough seichel to understand why you don't want to get drunk on Purim. But celebrate the day. Don't just watch the men being silly. Make use of the day. Feel Hashem's love. Yes, think about all the things in life that bother you and understand that they must all be for the best, because we have the confidence Hashem only loves us and nothing else. That's really what the day is about. I know what the setup is. You're going out to families. Is that the way it works? Or they're doing something here? All going together. What's this? Oh, you're going both days. Oh, you got 2 days of Purim. Okay. It's an experience. It's exhausting. Yeah.
So, you advise, like, is it really our place or our role to, like, sit and think and contemplate why things in our life are happening to us and why they may be for the best? Because all we can do is guess, and
all we can do is guess, but I'll give you a good idea is to take a look at some of the things that happened in your past and realize how they help build whom you are. The Sfarim write that Purim is a very serious day. Happy, but very serious. And that the growth on Purim surpasses that of Yom Kippur. If you truly get to feel Hashem's love, all the way to the extent that under the worst of circumstances, you know Hashem's on your side, then you're in a very good place. So make the most of it. Don't waste the day on stupidity. And also enjoy it. Once you've got a family, Purim's a lot of work. It's fun work. Nice to dress up kids. You have the freedom to really spend the day thinking and feeling close to Hashem and feeling happy. and really being able to bring only joy to your own lives by understanding that everything that bothers you is just superficial. But deep down, who knows what the real plot is? Who knows what Hashem's really got in store? On a national level, on a personal level. And then, when the Gula does come, it looks like it's approaching. Times are crazy. We'll understand everything, and yes, we will be killing ourselves laughing over all of Jewish history, and also over all of our personal suffering that we ever went through, and realize how good it was for us, how much we grew, and how we were built by all the misfortune. Gemara tells us, before Mashiach comes, there are two different kinds of brachas we make. When something really special happens, one makes the bracha Hatov v'Hametiv. Hashem is good and does good. On bad tidings, we say the bracha Dayan HaEmes, Hashem is the true judge. It says that once Mashiach comes, the only bracha we'll ever make is Hatov v'Hametiv. What they're telling us is that when Mashiach comes, everything will be obvious. There will be no situations, regardless of how difficult they may seem, there will be no situations where we'll feel anything other than joy. So Purim is giving us a little taste of what it's going to be like then. All right, make the most of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious about, like, for instance, like we might know in our brain that everything is good for us, but how do we make that pathway into our heart?
So on Purim, we have the opportunity to really feel it by way of comparing our lives to the story of the Megillah. And that's really why we're learning the story of the Megillah. To really be able to see a situation where it looked like the worst of the worst and everything was to our benefit. Now you can go feel that happening in your life. Really feel it happening in your life. And again, going through things in your history that today you know enough to see how you were built by situations you would rather not have been in. That really does it. And then on Purim, you really have to feel that love of Hashem. Okay.